So we're good. We're good. Goes you. Alright, so we left off with Angie committing suicide, basically. After revealing the single truth, Berncastle and Aurora, not gonna say that right, are planning to open that book and share it with all the high-class witches, council, whatever, the big old party. Battler and the other people in the Golden Land are taking refuge there while they're waiting for a miracle or something to happen. I think that was the gist of where we left off. Alright. What's this sound I keep hearing? Yes, it must be the sound of rain. In that case, what are those two bright lights coming towards me? I don't know. However, they came at me with a screeching sound and stopped right in front of me. A blaring noise came at me over and over. Whatever's shining those bright lights is threatening me. It's probably telling me to get out of the way. However, I was incapable of moving even a finger. There was sound, and a car door opened. Car. Door. Apparently, I was lying on asphalt under the pouring rain. That's where I stopped, huh? Umineko no Naga Kordi ni Chiru, Nocturne of Truth and Illusion. I saw a shadow, which had apparently the driver, open an umbrella and come towards me. Is this your backyard? The shadow questioned me. Of course, I couldn't answer it. If it is, then I must apologize. Yes, on a day with such fine weather, anyone would want to take a nap in such a lovely backyard as this. And yet, unless my memory fails me, the shadow crouched down and looked into my face. It was a woman. This is a public highway you're sleeping on. Do you want to become roadkill? Or maybe you already are roadkill. Well, no. Which one is it? I clenched my chest. I felt I needed to answer somehow and communicate my intentions. But finally, I managed to let a short groan escape my lips. I see. So you aren't roadkill yet. And that was how I met Ikuko. The patient's body is in very frail condition. Some sort of memory loss is very probable as well. They won't know for sure until the CT scan, but there may even be brain damage. It's lucky that damage is all we have to deal with. Any longer in a spot like that would likely have been much worse. True. In any event, I recommend getting this checked at a large hospital. Thank you, Doctor. Please keep this off the record. It may not be much, but here's some money for your troubles. I see no reason to speak of this needlessly, but... No, I couldn't possibly accept that much. In the end, the doctor took the money and swore to keep quiet about the matter. Eventually, Hachijo returned. Oh, you were awake? How do you feel? I nodded weakly, letting her know that it wasn't so bad for now. But where is this place? A room I have absolutely no memory of, and a house I don't remember at all. And first and foremost, here's a woman I've never seen. To start off, let me introduce myself. I'm Hachijo Ikuko. Feel free to casually call me Ikuko, or I'd more formally call me Hachijo-san. Hachijo Ikuko. The Hachijo family owns a large amount of land and is fairly famous in these parts. Unlike my accomplished brothers, I'm what you might call a little eccentric. I got into a bit too much mischief, and my parents finally ran out of patience and kicked me out. I'm now confined to this house. As a hobby, I like to read detective novels, and also to write them. My age is a single woman's secret. My heart is that of a girl, but I'm approaching the point where calling myself one becomes increasingly absurd. With the haze my mind was in, it was extremely hard to make out what she was talking about. However, I was able to pick up on the fact that she was trying to cheer me up. So, what's your name? My name? Logically, I know that, being a human, I must have a name, and I do have the feeling that I did indeed have a name. However, no matter how hard I tried to remember what it was, it just made my head hurt. Can you remember anything besides your name? Who am I? My head, oh, even my heart was a mess of torn flesh. I couldn't remember a thing, not even who or what I was. But I must remember. I had some kind of purpose, or maybe a mission. In order to remember that, I first have to remember who I am. Who am I? What is my name? Where was I born, and what was my birthday? I need to remember something. Anything. Age. Age? That's my little secret. 18. I look like I'm 18? I'm 18. Oh, so that was your age. Well, no, I thought you were being a bit too flattering. When I asked myself how old I was, the number 18 floated into my mind. To be honest, the number 18 felt a bit out of place. My mind felt much younger than that, and my pathetic body felt much older. I see. So you're 18. And that's all you can remember. I nodded weakly. Never knew that knowing nothing about yourself could make you feel this powerless. In that case, until you remember your name, let's give you the name Toya, meant with the characters for 18, until you remember. Hachijo Toya. What do you think? That sounds pretty cool. Yes, I must say I've impressed myself very much with that one. Hachijo Ikugo gave a satisfied laugh. From then on, I took the name Hachijo Toya. My inability to move my body was apparently due to a traffic accident. On that day I had been hit by a car, and Ikugo had picked me up from where I lay on the street. If she hadn't hit the brakes, she probably would have driven straight onwards, thinking she'd run over a dead dog or something. Later on, perhaps rudely, I suspected that the one who hit me might have been Ikugo herself, but when I saw her completely undamaged front bumper, I gave up on that theory. Hachijo Ikugo lived in a small but lovely lovely mansion on the top of a small hill in a village with a view of the sea. She also owned the hill behind her and was more than capable of enjoying the 4 seasons in privacy. As time passed slowly, my rehabilitation continued, and my ability to move improved little by little. However, it seemed I really did suffer some sort of brain damage. Finding out who I was looked like it would be a very difficult task. In the beginning, when I couldn't bear not knowing my identity, my head often hurt so much it felt as though it would explode. However, as I slowly accepted the fact that I was a new person with the new name of Hachijo Toya, the headaches became less frequent. That whole time, no memories returned to me except the fact that I had been 18. However, I was unable to remember any more, unable to even be sure that 18 was my true age. And eventually, I stopped trying to remember my former self. Good morning, Toya. That was quite the storm last night. Were you able to sleep well? I had some trouble falling asleep, so I decided to read your manuscript. My. How far did you manage to get? I finished it. Now there's a surprise. You managed to read through all that in a single night? I was surprised too. Once I got into it, I finished before I knew it. It was like I was just skimming it, or maybe like I was taking in each page with just a glance. Sounds like you have some talent at speed reading. So, how was it? What did you think of it? I liked it a lot. Still, if you don't explain that part about the ocean currents a bit more clearly, it might be a little unfair for a detective novel. Oh, but I thought it was great that you had the foreshadowing with the ring right there at the beginning. After I finished, I had to go back to the beginning and slap myself for being so easily tricked. I think giving people that feeling is what detective novels do best. Did I say something to offend you? If I did, you have my apologies. Of course not. Why are you apologizing? I'm just shocked, that's all. Your detailed opinions are worthy of praise, I believe. It seems you have some talent as a critic or a detective novel writer, too. A detective novel writer. A critic. From across the fog of oblivion, I seem to remember myself fighting and arguing about mysteries, or something like that. That way of fighting, which I must have learned in the past, sent a surge of excitement through me. Mystery. Fighting. My head hurt. I took a painkiller and swallowed it with fresh water brought up from that well. Who am I, really? But no matter how much I thought, I couldn't remember. From what I've been told, the frequency of the headaches might be lessened by brain surgery, but there's no guarantee that it would do my memory any good. Ikiku said that she would let me have surgery if I wanted it. However, I refused. Even if I can't remember it, the real me is still there, sleeping inside my head. I was scared that the surgery might harm that me somehow. By now, I've gotten used to dealing with headaches. As long as I don't force myself to remember the past, the headaches don't torment me every day. So, bit by bit, I became free of the headaches and got used to my new life as Hachijo Toya. Gradually, my interests shifted from myself to Ikuko. Hachijo Ikuko, a very strange woman. First off, she was apparently the daughter of a very well-off family, just as she had said. However, she was considerably eccentric, and the various mischief incidents she spoke of had apparently gotten her within an inch of being disowned. As a result, She had been given this house and had been ordered to live here quietly and alone. She had never been a particularly social person, so she happily accepted this new state of affairs, living however she pleased with servants to take care of her. She had no friends. No one ever came to visit. When I wasn't around, she only ever talked to an old black cat she kept as a pet, named Bern. I don't know her real age. She doesn't seem to be too old to marry yet, but with an isolated life like this, she isn't likely to meet people. She sometimes says that she just hasn't met anyone worth the trouble, but I think she's already given up on marriage. Her everyday life was very simple. She would either read through the many detective novels that were brought to her, or else write detective novels herself. At first, I thought she was some novelist at a private retreat, plugging away at a new book. However, the manuscript she finished just ended up clipped together in a pile. With me as the sole exception, it didn't look like she ever let anyone read them. A novelist is someone who writes novels for people to read, so I figured you could hardly call her a novelist when she kept writing novels no one would ever see. Ikuko-san, why don't you ever show these to anyone? I show them to you? Only the better ones, of course. Haven't you ever thought of sending one to some publishing company? It's a waste otherwise, when your works are so interesting. My works can't stand up against the pros. I sent one in once, but it was absolutely no good. I understand my position. This is just an amateur's pastime. I don't think amateur is a fitting word for someone who's so well versed in detective novels from all times and all across the world. Being a big eater doesn't mean you'll make a good cook. Reading every detective novel you can get your hands on is no guarantee that you're a good detective novelist. That's how it is. That's why this is nothing more than a pastime. Is it really fun to write novels that you won't show to anyone? It used to be. Once. What about now? I like getting to hear your opinions. At any rate, I've finished writing the chapter. I'll go make some tea. So would you mind reading it again and sharing your thoughts with me? Saying this with a smile, Ikuko thrust a pile of manuscript paper at me. I'm convinced that whether you read detective novels or write them, they're boring if you're all on your own. You can only find something really precious when you share that world with someone else. Headache. Toya? Are you okay? I'll go get some headache medicine. I'm fine. I'm more interested in this manuscript. I can't wait for the new chapter. The seasons passed. Together with Ikuko in this town whose name I didn't even know, we spent our days debating detective novels and talking about ideas for new plots. At a glance, they may have appeared to be stale and unproductive days. However, Hachijo Toya found satisfaction with his new life. And so, the curtain closes on this strange tale of Kurokubi Island. The end. With a dramatic flourish of her pen, Ikuko signified that her manuscript was now complete. What do you think? I tried using your plot to make Tsujiko's tragic love scene at the end a bit more moving. I think it's very good. I'd say the last farewell is sad enough to make it moving as a story, not just a reasoning puzzle. That's all thanks to your plot. Compared to this work, everything I've written before now is worth little more than scrap paper. Even as I was writing it, I was excited to be the first person in the world who got to read it. I've never felt that before. I just mentioned some ideas. You're the one who turned them into such a fascinating story, Ikuko-san. At some point, she wrote me in as well, and I too started my journey in the world of writing detective novels. Apparently, the old me had some talent for mysteries and detective novels and the like, and my talent seemed to be of a fairly unorthodox kind. I tried turning famous mysteries from across the world on their head, twisting those ideas into something new. However, a few ideas aren't enough to make a book. No meal is complete if all you do is chop up vegetables. Thanks to Ikiko's writing, a skill she had built up over many years, my ideas were transformed into a work of fiction. In this work, The Strange Tale of Kurokubi Island, the two of us merged the best of our respective personalities. And, though I hate to brag, it had turned into a masterpiece that we could show to anyone without shame. Hello. Please bring us some champagne. Bring a glass for yourself as well. This is the best job we've done so far, so let's celebrate. Ikugo called for some champagne over the internal phone line. Joined by the servant who happened to be working that day and the cat Byrne, we raised our glasses high and toasted our accomplishment. Ikugo-san, I have an idea if you don't mind. Let's hear it. I love hearing your ideas, as long as I'm not in the shower or on the can. Why don't we try submitting our book? I've never read anything this interesting before. I'm sure lots of other people will want to read it. You think so? I tried once in the past, thinking the same thing, but the result was... I believe in your talent, Ikugo-san. What about you? Of course, I believe in your talent. Then it's decided. To Ikugo-san's big debut. To Toya's big debut. We clinked our glasses once more, and on it went. We must have had way too much to drink. Before I knew it, I must have passed out on the sofa. There was a blanket covering me. Ikugo-san must have put it there. The lights were out in the study, but it wasn't dark. The computer's monitor was glowing. Outside, it had started to rain. It reminded me of the day Ikugo-san found me and took me in. Because of that, whenever it rains, I find myself wondering who I was, and I usually get headaches. So I wasn't sure whether the pain was because of the rain or because I drank too much. Ikugo-san, turn on the lights. Using a computer in the dark is bad for your eyes. Oh, did I wake you up? No, I slept well. I feel refreshed now. I turned on the light and looked out through a gap in the curtain. As I thought, it was a sort of pouring rain that always reminded me of that day. It's raining pretty hard out there. The wind looks pretty strong too. I hope the rain gutters don't get clogged with leaves again. I just cleaned them the other day, so they should be fine for a while. Her answer sounded a little abstracted. Apparently, her attention was absorbed by the computer. You've been pretty hooked by that computer lately, Ikugo-san. Did you find an interesting article or something? It may be a bit juvenile, but it's still pretty interesting. It's about that Rakanjima incident. Rakanjima? I told you about the Rakanjima mystery a few days ago, remember? It's been really huge on the net lately. The discussions, theories, and even the forgeries have been quite entertaining. Forgeries are stories, all based on the premise that yet another message bottle signed by Ushimi Maria existed and drifted to one of the nearby islands. Ikugo kept showing off her knowledge of the subject. However, a huge bell was clanging inside my head. The noise was so great that I thought my head would split open. Unable to tell what was the floor and what was the ceiling, I crumpled and clutched at my head. Toya, Are you okay? My head hurts. The Rakanjima explosion accident. The many disquieting rumors surrounding it. The scheming of the relatives who were after Ushima Kinzo's vast wealth and the hidden gold. And the truth? Ushima Eva, the sole survivor, said nothing. Eventually, everything would be inherited by the granddaughter, Ushima Angie, who escaped harm because she was absent on that day. Angie, Ushima Angie. I am Ushima. Oh, good, my head's getting split open. Incomprehensible scenes pierce my eyelids from the inside like blades of light. Just what am I looking at? Who are these people calling to me, but not by the name Toya? Who am I? Who are these people? What is this memory? Help me, Ikuko. Someone else's memory is hurting me. My head's splitting. I could hear the sorrowful sound of wind, and that must be rain. Who was I again? I am Ushirimiya. Angie! Please say something! Voices calling to me. Dad and Mom. It can't be. In 1986, on Rakanjima, Mom and Dad. Angie, hang in there. Can you hear Daddy's voice? Please, say something, Angie. Dad. Mom. I'll say it out loud. Dad. Mom. Angie. Thank goodness. I could feel my body being lifted up firmly and hugged roughly. Mom and Dad were hugging me. My eyelids have been open for a while now. I could feel the light slowly returning to my eyes. Just like your eyes get used to the dark, my eyes got used to the light, and bit by bit, the scene around me came into view. However, it was an unusual sight, which seemed to be very far away. My body was being hugged by Dad and Mom. Dad was sniffling, his face covered with tears. There were tears in Mom's eyes, too, as she held me tight. It was so strong that it hurt a bit. They held me with all their strength. Me, the bad kid who wasn't obedient, who always had an excuse, and who always tried to do the opposite of what her parents said. They held me tight to make sure I didn't head down the wrong path. As my eyes adjusted, I could see other people besides my parents. Everyone was there. George Oni-chan, Jessica One-chan, Maria One-chan, my uncles and aunts, even Sakataro. And there was the witch Virgilia and Ranave and... Where? You were fortunate. By chance, we found you drifting in the waves of the sea of emptiness. You were in a terrible state. It took quite some time to make you remember your true form. Beatrice? So, this is... the Golden Land. Your whole family has been waiting here for you to return. We knew you would come home. Did I come home because I was supposed to? I've gone back to how I'm supposed to be, and now... No, you did come home. That's right. You made it back here because you wanted to come home to us. Dad, Mom, You don't need to say anything. You've been on a great and terrible journey, haven't you? A journey where you were all alone. You understand now, don't you? You won't forget again. I understand, Dad. This is a place you can always call home. I know. When I gave that answer, Dad and Mom hugged me again. Hot tears fell onto my face. They were Dad's and Mom's tears. I can tell by looking that you're far from all right. But I'm so glad. Glad you came home. And Eva, feel free to hate me as much as you want. Give your dad and Mom a million kisses. Give a kiss to everyone who cared about you so much. And Eva. And say, I'm home to your other mother. Mom gave me a push from behind and I stumbled forwards. Towards my other mother. Eva. Mom. Angie-chan. If only I'd called you Mom on that day, I might never have messed up. We might have been able to create a new world together. That's enough. You've come home. You don't need to say anything else. Mom. Mom. Welcome home, Angie-chan. You're my adorable daughter. Mom. Always, and until the end, you were my closest friend. The two of them hugged each other quietly, burying their faces in the other's shoulders and sobbing. The truth wasn't worth anything at all. In the first place, the truth is always in the past. The point of the future is to learn what happened in the past. What really matters is whether I can truly live and prosper in the truth that is the now. If I truly live and prosper, that is the truth. Back when I only ever tried to see the truth of the past, I was nothing more than a ghost trapped in the past. Since that time, I haven't lived a single day. Now I truly understand. This is what the real truth is. I will live and have remembered how much everyone loved me. Because I was young and selfish, I didn't even remember until now. The kind grandpa who always spoiled me. The entertaining aunts and uncles. All of the kind and gentle servants. It was always warm. And yet, because I was young and cruel, I never tried to remember any of that. Everyone got distorted by my irresponsible imagination, and I completely forgot the truth. Now I can remember clearly, and I understand. That Halloween quiz party certainly was an illusion. It never happened. However, didn't we do all kinds of fun things when the relatives gathered? Things that were no more or less fun than that party? And for the first time since the start of the game, I went up to each and every one of them to greet them, thank them, and apologize. To thank Grandpa for always pampering me, to thank my aunts and uncles, to thank the cousins for always playing with me even though I was so selfish. And I thanked and apologized to the illusions. I think I said something horrible to Sakataro once in the past, and to Maria One-chan too. Maria One-chan, you really were a witch, weren't you? I've always been a witch. You approached that level yourself once, didn't you? No. I never really understood. Pitiful Maria One-chan with her pitiful magic. That's all I thought of it. So, I couldn't pick up a fragment of happiness. Couldn't even find one. You told me that yourself once, One-chan. It can't be helped. It takes two to create a universe. I had Beato, but you were all alone. No. If I had called Auntie Eva Mom, there would have been two of us. I'm sure I would have been able to create a new world with the same magic you used. Maria, One-chan. All of it is my fault. The message bottles I threw away, half-jokingly, distorted your future and wore you down. I bear responsibility for that. Yeah, seriously. No, it's because of your message bottles. Because of that, people started copying you and making forgeries, growing the story into something crazy. However, the message bottles thrown away by Beato did not name a specific person as the culprit. One of the forgers wrote a plausible forgery that had Umineko Eva as the culprit, and it spread like a wildfire. Even though I should have known better than anyone else that it was impossible, I accepted it in the end. It isn't your fault, Beato. No matter how many people around me had baseless suspicions, there should have been only one truth inside me. And yet, so easily, I abandoned my warm memories of you all, and surrendered my heart to them. Oh no. If I had not thrown away the message bottles, the future of Rakunjima would never have become the center of such bizarre misconceptions. I bear responsibility for it all. True. That's right. It really is your fault after all. But that way, it's a little irritating. You do have your share of the blame as well. Yeah, you're right. You were at fault, and so was I. Still, it'd be stupid for us to attack each other. After all, I'm a witch of the future. You're a witch of the past. I should be using that magic to build my future. We both bear responsibility in some way, but neither of us has the right to blame the other. I knew you'd be able to understand Maria Saucier's teachings, Angie. That's right. As the final member of Maria Saucier, it's my responsibility to pass on One-chan's magic. My magic can make everyone happy. Indeed. You have both pure magic and wicked magic at your fingertips. That's true. Magic can change completely depending on your heart. If you aren't properly guided, you can't use magic properly. And proper magic can bring people happiness. It is a wonderful thing. Bringing people happiness and soul is the sole reason that witches wield magic. I'm very pleased to know that those teachings have been passed down to the endless witches, all the way to the final witch. I'm sorry for failing to pass it down myself at all. Witch of the future, Angie Beatrice, I will now retract your expulsion from the Maria Saucier. I knew Angie would come back. Congratulations, Angie-sama. I thought I knew what the time we spent traveling together meant, and yet I... Sorry. I'm so sorry. Witches cannot create a universe unless there are two. In the future, you will be alone. Will you really be okay? Yeah, I'll be okay. I'm not alone anymore. I'll live with everyone. And I'll live in the future. I swear to keep living so that I can pass on the magic of Maria Saucier. Maria One-chan's magic has saved me too. There are a lot of people out there who need magic. As the final witch of Marriott Social, it's my duty to teach it the right way and save as many people as I can. Will you truly be able to do so? Of course. I have the power to do it. There's the golden magic that my predecessor, Eva Beatrice, spent so much time building. I've inherited all of that, right? Well, if only my health had held out a little longer. I was planning to spend all of it on myself. As Angie laughed, tears poured from her eyes again. Everyone surrounded Angie with their kind, warm smiles. Battler stood alone in the rose garden maze, letting the rain quietly fall on him. After searching for some time, Angie found him. Oni-chan. Angie, who was feeling guilty, sensed anger in her brother's expression, so she thought he was going to hit her. She shut her eyes. However, her brother touched her softly. He patted her head gently. Hey. The truth wasn't anything important, was it? No, it wasn't. Even though you were here, waiting for me to come home in such a warm world, I had my back turned the whole time. You learned the truth. Yeah. So, any hopes you had of someone miraculously surviving and coming back have been crushed. However, you now have a new mission, a hope for living in the future. You kept that precious hope safe for me. I was the one who opened the box and let it get away. It turned out worse than Pandora's box. The truth I didn't need to know flew out of the box, along with all my hopes, leaving nothing inside but empty space. That's okay. It's open now, and that's that. If it's empty inside, that means it won't fester. After all, false hopes can sometimes bring you pain. Battler laughed heartily. Then, with that same smile on his face, he told her, "We're already dead." Yeah. We've lived 12 years on the hope that we might still be alive. Not anymore. That's over and done with. Yeah. I know. Starting now, I'll step forward into a new life. Beato put Rakanjima in the cat box. The next witch, Antiva, guarded the lid of that cat box with her whole life. You, the witch after her, opened that lid. But so what? Why does the truth of the past matter? Yeah. From now on, I'll truly live. And I'll make my own personal truth prosper. Good luck. Final witch of Marriott Social. I've read Maria's grimoire. It's a great book. There's some really good stuff written in it. Even the Bible needs a translator. So, Maria's grimoire probably needs one too. You'll be that translator. You've got to teach kids who are in the position you once were. That's your mission as the new witch of the future. Yeah. I'm gone. But I'll always be behind you, watching over you. I know. And not just you. Everyone else too. All of us will love you forever. Don't forget that. I won't forget. Not ever. And that's for certain. Angie leapt into Battler's chest and sobbed. Humans are sad creatures who can learn but not unlearn. She had already learned. It may have been a cruel, terrifying, merciless thing, capable of destroying even the miracle called hope. However, there was still one tiny fragment left gripped in her hand. Her family's love. If she can just remember that and hold it tight, then surely Angie will live on. She'll be able to stop before taking that single step into nothingness. Also, the Rokkenjima cat box hasn't been opened completely. You've just taken a peek at what's inside, so you must be the lid yourself. And this time, you'll protect everyone inside the cat box. Me and Dad and Kiri-san, the cousins and the uncles and the aunts, grandfather and the servants, and all of the illusions. Yeah, this time I have to protect everyone. And shouldn't you hurry up a bit? The sound of popcorn being eaten rang out from beyond a rose bush. It was Lambda Delta. I think you know this already. But Byrne is just about to hold a big party for the Book of the Single Truth. He's gathered beings from heaven and from hell, from the spirit world and from parallel worlds. If she announces what's in that book in a place like that, it'll all be too late, won't it? I'm going. I gave Burncastle that key. It's my responsibility. I'll go and take it back. City of Books, huh? But there's no way for us to get in. There's a barrier around that place. She gave me this. With it, I can come and go as I please. What an idiot. She forgot to collect it when she threw me away. Angie fished through her pocket, and there was a jingling sound. It was a bell with a blue ribbon tied to it. That's it? One of those temporary entry passes that you get when you turn in your invitation. As long as you have that, at least one of you will be able to get into the City of Books. Well, as long as someone takes you across the Sea of Fragments first. Lambda Delta, take me to the City of Books. Angie. This is my way of taking responsibility. I'll see to it that the Book of the Single Truth isn't made public. Are you serious? That place is a den of monsters among monsters. Now that you've lost Byrne's protection, it'll be bigger than a fly. Squish. The end. The bell was snatched from Angie's hands. Lambda Delta. I'll go. I just need you to get me in there. After all, I'm an empty creature, unable to exist outside the cat box. Angie, on the other hand, must live on into the future. And you're a person with a future too. So I'll go. I have nothing to lose. No, this is my responsibility. My way of making up for what I did. If I don't do it myself, the future won't change at all. I won't be able to save any future cat boxes. Angie tried to snatch the key from Battler's hand, but Battler had no intention of giving it up. The two of them were grimly serious, but from the sidelines it looked like an ordinary squabble between two close siblings. Lambda Delta watched this conversation and shrugged. If she just took one of them to the City of Books, she wouldn't have to make any enemies, and there was no risk to her. All she cared about was which one would make the story more interesting. Nothing else. But then, she finally noticed. Hold on. Hold on a second. Hold on. What's your problem? Save it for later. We're having an important sibling discussion here. Okay, first off, let go of each other's hands. Battler's holding the bell now, right? Jump, Battler. Jump. Like this. Jingle, jingle. You next, Angie. Try jumping. Where the hell should I... Jingle, jingle. Huh? Why? If Battler was holding the bell, where did that sound come from? Angie hurriedly searched through her pockets. When she did, another blue ribbon bell came out of a different pocket than the first one. These are the same, aren't they? No way. Why are there two? I was only given one of them. I don't know why. At any rate, you've got two bells that will get you into the City of Books. Now I don't have to sit here and watch the two of you play around with each other anymore. The pair of them gripped their bells and looked at each other. From the very beginning, this game has belonged to the two of you. There's just been a slight change in who the opponent is. This isn't a competition between you two. It's a fight between Battler and Angie, who want to close the lid on the cat box, and Byrne, who wants it opened. Angie's moved from Byrne's team to Battler's team. That's all there is to it. Namda Delta, take us to the City of Books. Okay, I'm just taking you there. Got it? After that, I'm done being anything but a spectator. I just want to have the best seats, see exactly how you fight, what you do, and how Byrne makes mincemeat out of you all. Namda Delta. Thanks. Umineko no Nakukoto Nichiro, Nocturne of Truth and Illusions. Jima, huh? Shannon and Kennen stood guard in front of the door to the Golden Land. They glared quietly and fearlessly at the eerie fleet of ships across the horizon. Shannon slowly lifted her hands. Kennen raised his right hand and a red blade appeared there. Stop right there. I forbid you to come any closer. If you do, I'll kill you. They could see a single dinghy leaving the fleet and approaching them. They couldn't tell if it was a messenger or the first wave. Shannon and Kennen watched it cautiously. At the head of that dinghy, rowed by goats, stood Erika. Where the heck did she get that thing from? Maybe she's trying to act the part of the fleet's leader. Erika was glaring at them and smiling aggressively, with what appeared to be a pirate hat on her head. And a cat logo, huh? Chopsticks. It's a cat pirate with chopsticks. Because of course it is. I've come to deliver our terms. There will be room for negotiation. Please open the gate. Shannon and Kennen looked at each other. Erika was the one offering this deal. It wasn't likely to be anything agreeable. However, if they turned her away, the attack would probably begin at once. Since they were in a firmly inferior position, they wanted to buy time by any means they could. At Shannon's nod, Kennen erased his sword. Golden Land was filled with a hard downpour, accompanied by occasional thunder. Erika, who realized that this weather spoke with her emotions, smiled even more boldly. At the center of the Golden Land was the arbor surrounded by the golden rose garden. A large number of humans and illusions were there, arguing about something. Even without asking, it was easy to guess the nature of the debate by their anguished expressions. After all, in this life-or-death situation, they didn't have many options they could take. In the direction Erica was being led, Beato stood waiting, accompanied by the Chiesi's sister corps. When Erica, accompanied by her goat guards, saw Beato, she gave a bow that only appeared graceful. Beato followed suit and gave a graceful bow of the sort that was rarely seen from her. I am Beatrice, master of the Golden Land and the Golden Land Endless Witch. Announce yourself. As though implying that she was more than happy to go through with this farce, Beato introduced herself boldly and requested that Erica do the same. We have been dispatched from the Great Witch of theater-going, drama, and spectating's noble city of carefully selected books. I am the Witch of Truth, the commander of this library fleet, which is committed to bestowing honor and protection to books. My name is Furuto Erica. It is a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Shall we get down to business? You ought to celebrate. We of the library fleet decided to offering honor and protection to books, have come to bring good news to you all. First, I would like to announce that, after careful selection, the City of Books has acknowledged and accepted the game board created by the Endless Witch Beatrice as a great and honorable book. Oh, that is indeed a great honor. That game board is a profoundly entertaining and original masterpiece worthy of close study. It deserves to be released for all of our subjects to read. And so, the City of Books has ordered us to grant eternal honor and protection to this game board. This is all quite long and boring. Get to the point. We demand that you hand the entirety of this game board over to the Honorable City of Books. Doing so will give this board and its pieces the greatest honor and protection imaginable. And if we refuse, we will be prosecuted for the crime of monopolizing a great cultural artifact that ought to be shared among all of our subjects. We are here to notify you of the impending assault, one which will be waged by us to protect the benefits that are the rightful property of all subjects, not yours alone. Are you not concerned that the shared property of all subjects might be destroyed in this assault of yours? According to the Great Library Protective Regulations, when a criminal guilty of monopolization of a cultural artifact raises that objection as you have now done, the Executive Fleet may prioritize arrest over its protective duties, as long as they obtain permission from the Great Court. Of course, we have already obtained the Great Court's written authorization. I imagine the word arrest is closely followed by dead or alive. Am I right? I'm impressed that you can read those tiny letters. Now, enough fooling around. Let's hear your answer. What do we have to gain by accepting your conditions? Both of us will be saved the troublesome task. Furthermore, your brave and noble acts will be recorded as a glorious final chapter in the City of Books. You do understand, right? You have no chance of winning. This isn't even a fight. It's just you sitting there at the bottom of a well. All people throw stones at you. So, you claim that I have the power to choose nothing except how the library witches will record in the final moments? The rest depends on you. If you treasure this game board, you ought to surrender. The pieces will be treasured by our many loyal subjects for all time, and will be able to continue their roles on into eternity. In other words, the tragedies I created at will shall repeat. How is that any different from what you've been doing so far? It isn't. Is there anything else? If not, allow me to give you my answer. Go ahead. Erica tensed slightly. After all, this is the great Lady Beatrice she was dealing with. She might shout, "Here is my answer," dramatically and do something crazy. They say a cornered rat is the most likely to bite a cat. Furthermore, Erica had intel telling her that the great Lady Lambda Delta, Witch of the Senate, had been spending her time inside the Golden Land, though only as a theater-goer. Erica needed to carry out this noble task that her master had assigned her, and she had to carry it out perfectly. If she was honest, she wanted to make Beato raise a white flag, even by trickery if necessary. So even though this was a farce, she held back from giving any unneeded provocation. She gulped and tried to size Beato up. And then, with a pathetic expression on her face, Beato let out a sigh. I'll be honest. The truth is, I'm tired. What do you mean by that? My game has already achieved its purpose when my fight with Battler ended. And yet, for various reasons, the game has repeated several times since then. To be perfectly honest, I'm tired of it. To be honest, that isn't the answer I was expecting at all. So, you want to surrender? Really? Simply put, I don't care either way. Doesn't matter whether I surrender or whether we're vanquished by you. I simply wish to have the current close on this game board and tail, regardless of who does the deed. Of course, that was a lie. She knew she couldn't win even if she fought. For now, their best option was to play for time. They would fix Erica's detention to this spot, and during that time, Battler and the others would steal the key from Burncastle while she was completely off her guard. Once they had the key, they would return to the Golden Land, use that key to let Angie open the door to the future, and see her off. That was their goal line. Everything that happened after that would be inside the cat box. Angie would live on into the future, with hope. No one would know whether Beato and the others were alive or dead. That was enough. The only strategy Beato and the others could use to achieve this was to buy time. If you do surrender, it may be a bit of an anticlimax, but it will save me a lot of trouble. But, well, it is not quite so simple. You see, and this is just between you and me, as you may know, the great Lady Lambda Delta is staying here. She is, pushing us to show her a dramatic climax. That's a pretty cruel whim to force on someone. How are a few wimpy people in what's basically an already solved puzzle supposed to fight against our fleet? With its hundreds of thousands of troops. Very true, very true. The gap in strength is overwhelming. We told her that it wouldn't even be a fight, but, well, Lady Lambda Delta didn't listen and just said she would bring some of her friends to support us, so we should fight with everything we had. Lady Lambda Delta's friends? Unlike Burncastle, who kept to herself, Lambda Delta had many friends. Her friends and patrons were other territory lords of great influence who came from all over the place, or else monsters that had become legends in their own lifetimes. In all seriousness, her so-called fan club had enough size and influence that it could have suddenly declared itself a separate country in the Sea of Fragments without anyone being overly surprised. This is quite a problem for us, with Lady Lambda Delta all ready for action. Without any regard for us, she keeps calling up friends and acquaintances on the phone from all over the place, telling them to come over. Of course, this is all a blatant lie. Lambda Delta had turned into a small candy comet and was now shooting towards the City of Books with Battler and Angie in tow. So, to make sure that Lambda Delta and Battler's absences were not noticed, everyone was crowded around the arbor, pretending to argue furiously with each other. Butler-sama, give us your decision. We, the seven sisters of Purge, are prepared for death at any time. I firmly oppose taking a last stand that would lead to our deaths. What could possibly be gained by dying? How can you be such a coward? It's inconceivable that we should live in shame as prisoners. There are times when the mere fact of being alive gives one opportunities. Yes, indeed. A short temper makes a bad leader. Beller, if you call yourself a man, now's the time to act like one. The great Lambda Delta-sama is even willing to help out, right? I agree. The times when a man has to make a tough decision. In many cases, the timing of a decision is more valuable than the decision itself. If we surrender, they might not be violent. You can't be serious. Weren't you supposed to be a male lion? Where are your fangs now? If death awaits us regardless, I'd rather die as a wolf than a pig. Are you stupid? Are you saying you want to die like a dog? It all depends on the strength of the support Lambda Delta-san can provide. Lambda Delta-san, are your friends really strong enough to win against them? It's a bet. We'll either surrender and die, or we'll lose a bet and die. Interesting. In that case, our chances of survival must be higher if we take that bet. An honorable surrender will surely cause the great court to show mercy. They're backed by the Senate, aren't they? Sure, they'll hem and haw, but we'll all see the guillotine in the end. Anyway, let's all calm down. Cool your heads. I'm opposed to letting our emotions control us. Why don't you calm down first? We have another possible strategy, mutually assured destruction. We might not be able to win, but if we can convince them that we plan on taking enough of them with us, that might force our opponents to show some restraint. So basically, if they're determined to attack, we'll let them know we aren't going down without some damage first. All of Lambda Delta's friends are incredible. She knows lots and lots of witches, beasts, demons, and gods, all of which have really huge legends and histories. Even if those ships outnumber the stars in the sky, Lambda Delta's friends would wipe them out with a single blast. Will this really work? She hasn't seen through our act yet, has she? It is working. You must speak more forcefully as well. Do not worry about politeness. Enough, you gutless swine. Do you lack the backbone to finish with a bang? Hold on. Don't forget that some of us are opposed to fighting. I think we should surrender. What? Goda, you loser-loving fool! Well, it looks like the debate has gotten quite heated. So, will we surrender? Or will we fight back? Which will it be? Nobody knows. Personally speaking, I would like to surrender. My role will end either way. I would prefer that my game board be preserved the way I made it. I cannot bear to have Lady Lambda Delta continue to use it however she pleases. We don't want that either. I came here to fight you, but I'm no match for Lady Lambda Delta's friends. Secretly, Erika was getting worried by these complicated developments, and she was relieved that she hadn't pushed too hard earlier on. She wanted to flatter Beto and end this with a bloodless takeover. Even the great Lady Lambda Delta probably wouldn't seriously think of picking a fight for the Senate. Her motive was probably something much more trivial, a simple desire to watch the game board's final fireworks from a front row seat. However, she really did have some fireworks on her own prepared. It was at least possible that this could turn into a ruckus that Erika would have no chance of quelling. Beato saw all of this going on in Erika's mind, so she continued to act with an even more pathetic expression on her face. Even among witches, her acting ability was top-notch. might you be willing to lend us some of your strength so that my game board's beauty will be preserved? And surely it was a great error to invite that busybody as a guest. I understand. I'd like to end this quietly too, if I can. So, how can we work together? For some time now, we've been arguing over whether we should surrender or resist. I intend to return to them and propose that we surrender, and ask Lady Lambda Delta not to do anything that might destroy the game board. That would please me very much. So, what should we do? I would like you to guarantee that we have the necessary time to debate the matter. After all, your ships are surrounding and pressuring us at the moment. Everyone is so tense at the thought that we may be attacked at any time that they're falling apart. So, if you guarantee that we'll have enough time to discuss this amongst ourselves, everyone will surely be able to keep their composure during that time. Furthermore, I will have enough time to convince Lady Lambda Delta. Very well. About how long do you need? Will you be gracious and avoid giving a specific time limit? When the time limit is imposed, everyone will just fall apart again as the limit nears, possibly leading to a more radical decision. You have a point there. The most important thing about a fuse is whether it's lit or not. The length of the fuse is a trivial matter. In that case, will you give us the time we need? Understood. I guarantee that you'll have time to discuss it. However, that time won't be unlimited. I'll wait here and listen in on your discussion. Well, as far as that goes, it is true that your mere presence here has everyone on edge. I have already made my concessions. Isn't it your turn now? They were some distance away from the arbor, but it was just close enough to give a general idea of what was going on. It was far enough that they just might be able to hide the fact that Battler and Lambda Delta were missing. Just far enough for them to convincingly act like this was a white-hot argument in gridlock. If it were possible, they would rather have kept Erica at an even greater distance. They had planned to set up a seat of honor for their guests at one of the far corners of the garden maze. Is there some sort of problem? Okay. Don't make such a scary face. In that case, please wait here. This is a confidential conference. So you must come no closer than this line. Beata drew a line on the ground with her foot. Help them see me in a good light. If it's clear that I have obtained a generous agreement from you, that will be a powerful weapon in my hands in the debate. Could I get a chair? Yes, of course. Siesta troops. Bring Lady Erica a chair, an umbrella at once. And a hand towel too. I'll wipe it nice and clean for you. My lady, has there been any developments in our negotiations? If anything's certain, is that I'll be winning this year's prize for Best Actress. That's our Beatrice-sama. What we can do is argue fiercely, squabble amongst ourselves, and make it look like things will turn for the worse if negotiations break down. Indeed. This is yet another fight to support Battler's group. Get yourselves ready, everyone. Let us argue and insult with all we have. Got it? Yes, master. The sight of Goda, his cheek red and swollen from being pinched, made everyone snort. But they quickly covered their mouths and put fingers to their lips. Then everyone nodded at each other, and the fake argument resumed. This is absurd. Erica was sitting in the chair that the Jesser sisters had brought her, filling a goat tin on the details of their discussions. The goats would probably return and tell the rest to the fleet. The fleet would tell Berncastle, and Berncastle might think of some plan to deal with the situation or give new orders. The conversation with the goat ended, and it spun around. It would return to the dinghy and report this to the fleet. It slipped out from a rosebush and passed through the garden maze, heading towards the door that led outside. Is it really okay to let that goat reach the boats? If it goes back, Erica's report will reach Berncastle's ears. The Jester sister spoke through a secret channel that only they could use. 2 seconds, yeah? Won't even be a sound, yeah? It's just about to leave Erica's sphere of awareness. Estimated 10 seconds before it reaches the Ghost Boatman sphere, so assassination can be carried out successfully. Lady Beatrice, your permission to assassinate, if you please. We can do it. Erica will sense nothing. You do not have permission. Did you think an envoy would leave their ship without setting a time limit? The fleet probably has orders to attack if it isn't contacted within a certain period of time. Let that goat go. 00, understood. The goat passed through the door. Then, after receiving a silent bow from Shannon and Cannon, it got on the dinghy and returned to the fleet. The fleet would probably follow Erica's orders and stand by until an attack order was given. That gave the residents of the Golden Land a chance to assassinate Erica. But of course, that wasn't going to be possible, practically speaking. She was Berncastle's greatest underling, and a witch who controlled truth. Tricking her was all they could hope for. Anything else would be overconfident. Why don't you all have a seat too? You need have no worries about us. Without any hint that she had been talking about assassinations, 00 stood upright with her hands clasped behind her back. Surrender or resist until the end, the false argument resumed. Just how far and how long would they be able to trick Erica? Yes, the final thought for the Golden Land had already begun. Battler, you can count on us to handle things here. It's time for you and Angie to take this final game back. This is one freakishly huge library. I've heard that each one of these books has a tale like ours inside it. After all, this is a world of gods. You can tell at a glance that it's no place for scum like you to be in, right? After passing through the barrier, the three of them had finally made it inside the City of Books. For some time, they were overcome by the countless otherworldly sights before them, but they quickly remembered their original objective. Are you listening? First off, don't get the wrong idea. You two came here to fight Byrne, but that doesn't mean walking up to her and attacking her directly, okay? We know. In the first place, you were only able to fight the Great Beatrice on an even footing because the game board protected you with the rules that made it that way. If you leave the game board, you're more like something that'll leave a small stain on her palm when she swats you. Don't forget that, got it? Makes sense. This isn't the game board we're familiar with. We didn't come here to fight. We came here to take something back with us. Exactly. You're here to prevent the book of the single truth from being exposed to the public. That's your only goal, your only fight. You'd better not be confused about that. Battler and Angie nodded to show their understanding. The book of the single truth itself is being displayed openly in the middle of the party. Distilling that'll be impossible. However, bringing in the key is going to be a big part of the ceremony. Which means the key must be stored in a different place. But there's no guarantee that it'll be undefended. After that, it's all up to your luck. I hope it's good for your sakes. Hide! Amda Delta pulled her head back from around the corner of a bookshelf. The others hurriedly followed suit. In the distance, they saw emerald green lights floating about and leaving trails. Those are Burns' cat familiars. She's got them patrolling all over the place today. Did she guess that we would come? No. Don't forget how huge this place is. Those are staff cats, out looking for idiot guests who've gotten lost so they can be taken to the lost children area. And that's not where we want to go at the moment. It looks like one's about to find us. Should we take them out? I'd advise against it. Maybe if this were some other territory or game board, but this is Burns' home base. That single cat should make you as scared as being surrounded by a crowd of vicious beasts. Plus, they're cats. They've got good senses and they can call for their friends. If they spot you, you'd better be prepared for what happens next. I'm not going to save you. Just getting you here has been troublesome enough. If I surrender, I might get off the hook with being stripped naked and thrown into the worst sort of crappy fragment for just a century. How wonderful. I think I can sympathize with Burns' feelings a bit now. Lambda Delta wasn't laughing. Most likely, even this punishment she spoke of was pretty optimistic. Even though she keeps saying that she won't help anymore, she's already risking everything. Why? Isn't it obvious? Lambda Delta brushed her hair back and grinned. It's because you're going to show me the perfect happy ending. Lambda Delta hugged their heads in the same time, making their foreheads bonk together. You'd better show me, for certain. Yeah, we'll certainly show you a happy ending. Well, certainly take this cat box back. Let's go. This way, and swim quietly. Swim quietly. That's a weird phrase. Interesting music. The three of them swam out into the darkness of the deep ocean trench that was the city of books. In that massive, vast trench of bookshelves, they vanished in the darkness almost immediately. The library defied the common sense of the human world. The city of books. The word city was no exaggeration. And if it was filled with the green glowing eyes of Berncastle's countless cat familiars, trying to count them would be almost as crazy as counting all the fish in the ocean. They formed schools that swam all over the place, on the lookout for any fools who might miraculously manage to slip in and disturb their master's party. If Battler's group was found, the cats would report it instantly. They would probably form a pack, open their large mouths, and swallow them in a single gulp. There would be no fight. In this place, Battler's party would be swallowed like tiny fishes if they were discovered. The warships surrounding the Golden Land were well more than 100 strong. Each of them had dozens of cannons pointing at the door to the Golden Land. The goats that packed the decks of the ship numbered in the tens of thousands. Each one of them carried enough antimatter toxin in their fangs to completely deny one of the game board pieces. This time, they would chew apart and eat away everything. The crowd of ghosts unleashed their rotten breath and dangling drool. At that time, Erica, who wanted to avoid trouble and hoped Beato would be able to convince Lambda Delta to surrender peacefully, was sitting alone, calmly enjoying the tea Ranave had poured for her. Of course, even Erica wasn't planning to give them unlimited time. In her mind, she had already decided to allow them 3 yawns before stepping in. This actually isn't so bad. Getting to watch Beato try and convince everyone as they call her a coward and a loser. Indeed, it is impressive that our short-tempered mistress has managed to become such an adult. What's so funny? Oh, pardon me. Are you ready for another cup? Please feel free to enjoy our collection of great teas from across the globe at your leisure. Lambda is leading Beato's side into an all-out resistance, and she's gathering her friends. Is this a joke? The messenger cat shook its head and then continued dispassionately meow its report. Even Lambda isn't that stupid. She should know what it means to have OO as their enemy. Even as she said this, Bernkastel was chewing away at her thumbnail. Despite how she looks, that kid has a lot of strange friends, and they're all idly curious, crazy monsters. Even so, take up arms against the Senate. To take up arms. It was possible. She could think of many monsters among Lambda Delta's friends who would love to see a losing side gain support to make a comeback victory. Before she realized that the finger Bernkastel was biting was covered with sweat. She could do it. She really is a moron sometimes, after all. Get me a phone, quickly. The cat leapt away, then flew back to the phone and receiver. I gotta call up her friends. I have to warn them not to get involved in this stupid game. Phone numbers. Why don't I have any phone numbers saved in here? Oh, right. I have no friends. How are you supposed to greet people on the phone? Does hello work? No. This is an absolutely absurdly ridiculous scenario. The golden key was being kept in a room inside the City of Books. However, perhaps room wasn't a fitting word to use. It was large enough that you could probably fit 2 domed baseball stadiums in it if you tried. Even so, in this city, these were called rooms. Floating in the center of this vast room were several sacred magic circles. Wrapped around by these magic circles was Angie's gold key. Surrounding these were countless emerald green stars, which looked like a slowly revolving planetarium. The eyes that numbered the same as the stars, were all glaring in the same direction. Come on, don't look at me like that. I'm on your side. Did you forget? One of the cat paddled toward Eva, yelling that no one was allowed to enter this room. Maybe Bernkastel has ordered me to guard the key. So, why don't you leave this to me and get lost? After looking at each other with suspicious eyes, the cats glared back at Eva again, as though saying that they hadn't heard any such order. By the way, that's a pretty soft bodies, don't they? It makes it much easier to chew. Eva lifted up the golden staff, and the floor and ceiling of the vast room were covered with red lines. The reaction of the cats was lightning fast. They realized instantly that this was hostile behavior. The entire emerald green constellation withered and became a single massive deep-sea fish, which charged at Eva with its cavernous mouth wide open. However, at the same time, the red lines on the floor and ceiling, the massive spiderweb pinched itself together and crushed the fish. Twisted it, spun it around and around, and compressed it into the size of a small ball. Then that ball-shaped thing burst open, leaving nothing left. It all happened in an instant. If only you just give up and die. The witch hunters were holding a convention in the event hall. After all, when Ushura Eva's diary was open, the endless cat boxes would be lost, along with the countless imagined stories that had entertained them for so long. So this final convention was the time for them to air their best theories for one last time. While the opening of the cat box did give them a slightly lonely feeling, they couldn't contain their excitement as intellectual rapists. Not when they knew that the Rakanjima mystery was finally going to be solved once and for all. If that box were opened, a single girl would be hurt. However, their jaws and fangs couldn't care less. The witch-hunting goat nobles kept licking their lips, wanting to chew apart the guts of Beatrice's cat box as soon as they could. Seated upon them, seated upon a solemn throne so tall it looked like a pillar. Feather listened in on the nonsense being spewed from the mouths of the goat nobles. A black cat wearing a cape silently appeared and whispered something to Feather in his ears. No, that is fine. Everything is going according to my plot. You need not inform my Miko. The cat bowed humbly and vanished. Feather raised her wineglass high and laughed as she looked through it to the light of the chandelier, which was as beautiful and majestic as the moon. This should be enough to thank you for your excellent reading, child of man. Well then, just who is weaving this tale? Am I for you, or are you for me? What do you think? A trap? As Battler's group moved forward, darting from bookshelf to bookshelf and avoiding the eyes of the cats, they found something strange. Written with a faintly glowing red substance was a letter and an arrow. K. That's what it looked like to them. Do you think K means key? Those marks only appeared when we got close. This is a message aimed at us. Is there anyone here besides us who'd be willing to help? I didn't think we had any allies. And she traced the red arrow with her finger. It was very faint, thin strings that had been tied together. This red stuff, which stuck to your finger and tore away like cotton candy, had to be. There is someone on our side. Someone who's always been on my side. How can you be so sure? Yeah, I get it too now. Lambda, we can trust the person who wrote this. She'll probably be able to guide us to the keys safely. Are you sure? Then let's go. We don't have time to be standing around. Thank you, Mom. In the arbor, the argument over whether they should surrender or fight continued without signs of stopping. Every now and then, a small fight would break out, which fortunately ended up delaying Erica's third yawn. However, they didn't know how long they would have to continue this fake fight. Keeping this high level of tension going was physically stressful. The instant they tired out and the tension faded, Erica would probably demand a verdict. They had to constantly appear to be trapped and agitated. It was a battle of wariness and tension. This was their fight. Erica waited patiently. Now that she had tired of tea, she was watching Ronave perform some magic tricks, and seemed to be enjoying herself considerably. Even Ronave, who was usually aloof from the world, was fighting. If Erica got bored and had a tantrum, an all-out attack would probably begin at once. He was also putting his life on the line in the fight to buy time for Battler's group. As the fiercest leader in the argument, Beato wore out the quickest. She breathed heavily and her face was so pale it seemed she might faint at any moment. Beato, hang in there. Your body won't hold out much longer at this rate. Pretend and suddenly burst into tears and rest for a while. We'll pick up the slack. I am still fine. I can do this. Just one more push. Let's go. So, who's up next? Who wants to be beaten down first? In that case, I go to. I'm prepared. We must fight. It would be outrageous to accept defeat without fighting. As I've said from the beginning, fighting with all we have is the only option. Hold on a second. Erica suddenly rose from her chair. Of course it was Goda. Ronave tried to coax her back into her seat, but Erica's attention was completely focused on those arguing under the arbor. I am the detective. My memory of what I hear is as good as a recording. You're aware of that, of course. You're quite an excellent detective after all. I'm not interested in you. Goda-san, I have one question for you. Yes, ma'am? Have I done something to cause offense? Hold on. Don't forget that some of us are opposed to fighting. I think we should surrender. Those were the first words I heard from you when I arrived here. However, you just said this. We must fight. It would be outrageous to accept defeat without fighting. As I've said from the beginning, fighting with all we have is the only option. That's what you said. Did I say that? It's hardly strange for an opinion to change in the course of a discussion. Indeed. All of us have been feeling doubts about our position lately, so an occasional change of opinion wouldn't be... No. From beginning to end, no one has changed their opinion in this argument. Just now, Goda-san alone flipped his position 180 degrees. Furthermore, I can't imagine that any of the statements made by the rest of you were sufficient to make Goda-san switch his position. An uncomfortable, moist wind blew by. Everyone was silent, frozen as though time had stopped. In that silence, Erica continued with a blank expression. This can lead us to two conclusions. First, it may be that Goda-san has no opinion and is just a loser who will say anything that goes with the flow. Second, it may be that none of you has an opinion, and that this entire argument exists only for its own sake. Aren't you overthinking this a bit? Wrong word to use. Here we are in a desperate debate that will decide our fate. I really think it strange that some people would act abnormally under such pressure. The only reason for prolonging a meaningless argument is to buy time. Do you have anything to gain by buying time? Is it because Lady Lambda Delta's reinforcements will come? That can't be true either. After all, for some time now, I have heard all of you speak to Lady Lambda Delta and Battler occasionally, but not once have I heard them reply. Taking all this into account, you're left with only one conclusion. That Lady Lambda Delta and Battler are not here now, and that these people have won Lady Lambda Delta's assistance, with Lady Lambda Delta and Battler probably planning to sneak into the City of Books. In which case, their goal is probably to steal back the Golden Key and Angie, and your plan was to act as bait and buy time until their mission was complete. But because of Goda-san's single poorly chosen line, this level of reasoning is possible for Furuto Erika. What do you think, everyone? With a blank yet ruthless expression, Erika spoke these words and returned to her seat. Everyone else was frozen, unable to move. No one spoke. However, time was moving. As evidence, a bead of sweat dripped down everyone's cheek, fell, and hit the table with a tiny yet audible splat. Then, frozen time shattered, and in the same instant, the white chair Eric had been sitting in broke apart. The stakes of the Seven Sisters of Purgatory and the high-velocity rounds from Justice Sister Core hit the chair at exactly the same time. A few moments after that, the Erica sitting in that chair faded and vanished. After image! She's fast! Kill her! In an instant, Erica had moved to a spot behind the chair. Her expression remained as blank as it had been before. However, there was now something in her hand that hadn't been there. As the 7 lightning strikes of the 7 sisters raced at her once more, she batted all of them away with her scythe. That was one hell of a farce. But the tea was good. Thanks for the meal. Well now, it seems that you've all been in agreement since the start. Allow me to ask for your answer once again. Erica lifted her left hand, and the one that wasn't holding the scythe. Very well. Allow me to answer. This golden land belongs to me, to all of us. If you enter with your shoes on, we'll give you a proper welcome. In other words, to put it elegantly, all cannons prepare to fire. Target, the Golden Land. Wash your face in miso soup. Shoot him dead. Yes, thank you. See you around. Meow. Berncastle set down the receiver and crossed out yet another name on a list of Lambda Delta's notable friends. Something was wrong. Not a single person she called had heard anything from Lambda Delta. They weren't just playing dumb. They really knew nothing about the strange ruckus Lambda Delta was trying to stir up. Even Berncastle was starting to suspect that something was fishy. Then a black cat leapt in and meowed a frantic report. Lambda and Battler aren't in the Golden Land? She tore the phone receiver from its stand. The number she dialed was short. It was probably an internal line. However, after listening to it ring several times, she slammed the receiver down again and finally managing to break the phone. Gather all the cats who aren't busy. This is an emergency. The cats I had guarding the key aren't responding. Berncastle, overwhelmed with emotion, kicked the table over. Then the room finally grew bright. It was like green sunlight. A bright green light waved about, giving the illusion that a green sun was rising and lighting the room up. It was a sign that Berncastle's army had been given an emergency summons. Come, my kitties. It's time for a witch hunt. That kid always smells like candy, so you'll find her pretty fast. The first guy who finds her gets a human form and a witch's title. What was now an emerald green nebula let out a roar of delight that shook the bookshelf cliff. Something's chasing us. What is that? A green sun? Hide. They know. The three of them frantically hid behind a bookshelf. The room with a key in it was straight ahead. They could see something glinting faintly in the darkness of that room. It was a glint different from anything else they had seen so far in the city. The color of the glint was gold. They had almost reached the golden key. However, if they went towards it, Berncastle would be right behind them, along with their vast swarm of familiars. In other words, they were trapped in a dead end. They already knew that the emerald green color came from the eyes of the familiars. However, it was almost beyond comprehension that this undulating green sun could be the same thing, and they could do nothing except stare in wide-eyed shock. The countless cats were passing through the ravine of bookshelves from the very top to the very bottom. As they approached, they painstakingly checked the gap between each book. However, even this mind-numbingly huge task was accomplished swiftly thanks to the sheer number of familiars. With the speed of a gust of wind, they carefully checked every nook and cranny. There was no way to hide from this grinding sun. They would have been as foolish as trying to hide from water on a sinking ship. Will we be able to hide until they pass us? No. At this rate, we'll be found no matter where we go. Battle was just about to leap from the shadows, but Lambda Delta grabbed him by the collar an instant before. Are you thinking of fighting? No. What will we found if we just stand here? So we have to move forward. We need to reach the key as soon as possible. You really think there won't be cats guarding the key? We'll just be pinched between them. I believe in Antiva. She's the one who guided us this far. I'm sure she took care of the guard cats too. I agree. If we're going to be found anyway, let's try and get there as fast as possible and grab the key. If we can just do that, no one will be able to open the book. So, we'll rush in there and grab the key. And then what? That place is a dead end, right? You realize there will be nowhere to run, don't you? We know that, but the key will be our trump card. It's vitally important to Berncastle too. If worst comes to worst, we might be able to use the key as a bargaining chip. A bargain with Bern? You're insane! Well, if we hide here, we'll definitely be found. In that case, I'll take a bet on that 1,000,000,000 to 1 chance. We'll get the key and have that be our trump card. So you're praying for a miracle to win against the Witch of Miracles? Picking the winner of astronomically bad odds. That's the Umineko family's magic. I've got good eyesight, so let me enlighten you. Can you see those magic circles around the golden key? That's a simple barrier, but a pretty strong one. It'll break if you just touch it. What's this sort of annoying seal that'll take exactly 1 hour to fade, whether a great witch or a lowly human does it? It's still over an hour before the ceremony begins. In other words, we won't even be able to touch the key unless we can buy time for a whole hour. I don't have an hour. When Aunt Eva took out the guard catch, she must have broken the magic circle too. Probably won't take an hour. As far as I can see, the magic circle is still intact. Sorry to say it, but even if it did touch it, it was less than an hour ago. Well, what's an hour? At least we know we can grab it if we manage to stick around that long. Yeah. Sure, let's play tag for an hour. I'm used to getting chased around by thugs. You two really are out of your minds. You're really planning to play tag against Byrne and all her cats? If there's even a 1% chance, you can be certain we'll grab it. The difference in enthusiasm between the siblings who had everything to lose and Lambda Delta was immense. However, Lambda Delta was no coward. She was a great witch of the Senate. If she surrendered, she wouldn't be able to escape severe punishment, but she would be forgiven after a few hundred years. Why would she, after being thrown into a stormy sea while clutching a buoy that could save only her, decide to throw that buoy away? No living person could be as determined as those siblings who were already fighting for their lives. No one could blame Lambda. You two really are stupid. You know that? Ah, well. Why don't I tell you about a plan that's got a bit more than a 1% chance of working? How does that sound? The two siblings looked at each other. However, they both thought that any plan would be worth listening to, even if it would only raise their chances by 0.001%. A sacrifice. Byrne is a cat. She'll chase fleeing prey, and she'll also kill prey that doesn't flee. And only after toying with it first. Cats are terrible people. Still, if that's true, it'll be worth betting on. Let's have one sacrifice. We'll decide with rock, paper, scissors. Whoever loses has to taunt Byrne, then get laughed at and killed, all to buy as much time as possible. Does that work for you? No need for rock, paper, scissors. I'll do it. You two go on to the key room. Wait, Oni-chan. I'll do it. This is all my responsibility. I was the one who listened to Byrne Castle and trusted her, so I've got a thing or two to say to her. Both Battler and Angie decided to be the sacrifice and wouldn't listen to the other. See? You need rock, paper, scissors to decide, right? If you don't act quickly, you won't even have a chance to use this plan. They'll be here any moment. Okay. Either Angie or I will be the sacrifice. Lambda Delta, you'll take whoever's left, steal the key, take them back to the Golden Land. I won't let you do it. Oni-chan. Quit joking around. You've got to let me act like a big brother at least once in a while. There's no time. Rock, paper, scissors. Single round. I'm super paper, so first we'll start with that. Got you two? Fine. No regrets. Okay? 3, 2, 1, paper. It really was a stupid kid game of rock, paper, scissors. Since they'd promised to start with paper, this was the chance to make a surprise attack and use something else. However, both Battler and Angie chose rock, and yet it wasn't a tie. Because in addition to those two rocks was one person who chose scissors. After staring stupidly at their fists and those scissors, they looked at her. Ah, dang. We were supposed to start with paper, so I figured I'd use scissors and beat you both. I guess paper should have stuck with paper. There had been no reason for Lambda to join in on the game. This wasn't the time for a joke like that. Battler and Angie, each trying to lose, chose rock. Lambda Delta alone chose scissors. Don't tell me you intentionally. If you die, we can't even get back to the Golden Land. It doesn't count. Well then, you can just use this. Lambda made a clenched fist, a palely glowing fragment appeared there, and she gave it to the pair of them. Valor had seen one of these before. It was a magic fragment like the one Erica had used before disappearing, which would allow one to cross the sea of fragments. With that, you'll be able to return to the Golden Land. And anyway, I'm the best person for the job. You two probably wouldn't last a handful of seconds against Burn. If it's me, not only would an hour be no problem, but who knows, I might even win. And I owe her one. I've got to make this my victory, and even the score. Still, away games are such a pain. Lambda Delta pretended to complain as she stood up straight. Anyway, see you in a bit. I guess a show-off like me couldn't stick to being a spectator after all. Sorry for stealing your time to shine. And sad that I won't be able to watch your game until the end. But I've already been shown the script, so I'm not missing anything. Lambda. Then, with her broad smile and a wink, this is your happy ending. I've already figured out what happens next. There's no need to watch. I'll see the two of you again. In the credit roll of your happy ending, that is. Oh, wait. Lambda snapped her fingers and the two of them turned into Konpeito candies. She picked them up, took aim at the glint of golden candy, the golden key, and flicked them away. That way they should be able to reach the key without Burncastle noticing. Dang, what terrible luck. What were the odds of them both playing a rock against my scissors? Yeah, I know. It wasn't nice of me to test you like that. Sorry, you two. And then, Lambda Delta's body was lit up by an emerald green light. Then she turned around. The cat's eyes and Lambda Delta's met. Lambda Delta grinned and waved. There was a fierce roar and several bright flashes. What in the... A chain of explosions flashed by one after another, enveloping Burncastle and her pack of familiars in an instant. They were multicolored fireworks, or rather, multicolored candy that burst with a flash and scattered everywhere. Countless stick candies, sugar sculptures, cookies, and tarts flew in every direction, and each one of those split and exploded into hundreds of candies, each of which exploded again into a cloud of Konpeito. However, these sweets weren't sweet. The Konpeito was heavier than lead, harder than steel, and sharper than any blade. As the colorful cloud exploded outward, it blasted the entire pack of cats into little bits. The emerald green glints were scattered everywhere and sparkled like the night sky, and among them danced a cloud of pretty candies that looked like they'd go well on a Christmas tree. It was sufficiently outrageous and beautiful and cute to mark the great witch Lady Lambda Delta's appearance on the scene. Oh, if it isn't Lambda. I was hoping to meet you in the party hall. I love you, Burn. Isn't whispering of our love all the better if we're alone? I'll be happy to hear it, after I've plucked off all your limbs. With a jerk of her chin, Burn ordered her familiars to attack. This is my dearly beloved and my only friend in the world. Her arms from the elbow down, her legs from the knees down. You can chew those up however you please, but not a scratch anywhere else on her. The crowd of cats undulated again, reformed into a single mass, and became the emerald green leviathan that would swallow up any poor victims who snuck into the city of books. It was shaped like an impossibly vast whale. However, would it look like a whale from Lambda's perspective? She probably couldn't see anything except an immense mouth about to swallow up everything. Simply wonderful. I'm about to be overwhelmed by Burn's love, aren't I? I do love you, Lambda. Once your limbs are gone, I'll skewer you through your butt and hang you by my bed. Every morning I'll give you a good morning kiss, and every evening I'll kiss you good night. Sounds great. Then I'd better wrap you up in my love, too. I'm actually having to say these words. However, Lambda Delta's war cry was swallowed up by the glowing, writhing Leviathan in a single bite. Yes, you are wonderful, Lambda. I love that empty-headed way you just do things without looking ahead or worrying about your own life. Wind? At the same instant that Lambda Delta was swallowed and Berncastle was sure of her victory, the latter felt a slight breeze playing with her hair. The countless sweets Lambda had sent flying like fireworks, now which drifted about like the decorations at a Christmas party, were flowing. No, they were converging on a single point. It was like watching a firework run backwards. Countless sweets rapidly contracted around the vast closed mouth of the Leviathan. A gigantic reverse explosion concentrated on a point inside it. Or perhaps it was more like countless candies showering the Leviathan from all directions like bullets. Inside that massive grain was a black swirl. The swirl was on a palm. On the palm of Lambda Delta, who wore a defiant smile. It was a mass of supergravity. All of the sweets, the catch, the whale, and everything else was being sucked into that one point and crushed. I'll hold you tight. Get over here, Burn. You're trying to suck me in? All of the candies Lambda Delta had scattered were getting sucked back into the black hole on her palm at unbelievable speed. The reverse explosion of the oncoming candy whittled away at the Leviathan, crushing it inwards. Come on, let me give you a hug. With all her strength, Berncastle held her ground in midair, trying to resist the supergravity. For the first time, all traces of condescension had left her face. Even Lambda Delta's cocky expression was marred by the sweat trailing from her forehead. Because their power was so overwhelming, any victory would have to be instantaneous. If either relaxed in the slightest, they would match each other's strength and get dragged into another dizzyingly long fight that could last for centuries. Neither of them had any desire to go through that again, so neither of them showed the slightest mercy for their most beloved friend. By now, the Leviathan had been completely crushed and compressed inside the black hole. Berncastle was the only one still holding her ground. However, a windstorm of candy asteroids like the asteroid belt repeatedly slammed into Berncastle, wearing away at her girl's form bit by bit. I've got to get away. Oh, really? The thing flying into Berncastle's range of vision was a comet pelting straight for her, with a massive present box at its core, and a cloud of candy surrounding it. That was impressive. The candy comet wiped out Berncastle along with her scream. It burst into little bits, and within a blink of an eye, it was sucked back into a hole of supergravity. Once it was all gathered into one place like a gem, it began to spin rapidly. It was flattened by the centrifugal force, turning into something whose shape resembled a galaxy. After swallowing all of the cats and their master, it now looked like a wiggling, flickering emerald green galaxy that floated just above Lambda Delta's palm. The pocket of supergravity kept compressing it further and further, until at the end it had become a single green, shining confeito. Then it fell onto her outstretched palm. Sorry, Burn. I wanted to play with you always, so I've always taken it easy and pretended to be in a pinch. Lambda Delta had the confeito above her head and peered at it. But the truth is, I'm just impossibly strong. Sorry about that. Then she pressed a Competo to her pink lips, gave it a light kiss, and bit down. This doesn't taste like burn. Lambda Delta licked her fingertips, then turned to face the empty air behind her. I already knew, my beloved Lambda. And with that, I think we'll call it a day. And pick it up next time. I'll figure out when that is later. But on a side note, when loading the game, I noticed these files are from February, and they're episode 5. So that means I've been going for near on a year with this one game, which is crazy. Anyway, that'll be it for today. Thank you guys for hanging around, enjoying the story, figuring out where it is, or laughing along with us. Anyway, take care. See you later.